The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone, thank you for joining us for the ASF Communication Series webinar. Today's webinar is Core Set 8. My name is Kitty Murphy and I'm the Special Events Coordinator for the Angelman Syndrome Foundation. Before we begin, just a few reminders. We will have time at the end of the webinar for questions. There are two options for asking questions. One, you can either raise your hand by selecting the hand icon by your name and I will unmute your line to ask your question to the presenter directly, or two, you can type in your question in the questions box and I will read it to the presenter. If we are unable to get to all of the questions before the end of the webinar, please visit the Facebook ASF Communication Training Group page to post your question and have it answered by one of our communication experts. We are recording the webinar and links to the recording can be found on the ASF website and the ASF Communication Training Series Facebook group. And with that, I would like to present to all of you Erin Sheldon.
Hello everybody, can you see my screen? Kitty, do you know if my screen, there we go. Now I just got a message again. Let's see if I can. Let's try that again. So do you see the screen now?
Yes, I can see it.
Yes, we can.
Excellent. All right. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for coming. This is Core Set 8. So we're just, once again, this will be the 8th month that we've presented some core words. So this will be quite familiar to any of you who have been following kind of the first week of each month. Today's webinar we'll be just introducing another set of Core 4, and Mary-Louise Bertram will be providing some support to our pod families about how to apply all this to any of you who are pod users. So we'll just be exploring modeling core words to support our kids, and we'll go from there. Within the 5 steps framework that we've been using in this webinar series, the teaching tasks that we're focusing on, or the instructional strategies that we're focusing on this week is core word vocabulary instruction. So we've been taking different sets of core words all throughout this series and just giving kind of particular attention to them to help us be just more intentional about how we model them. The tools that you would need to be able to do this is any communication system that has a really robust vocabulary, so either a robust core word vocabulary or a pragmatically organized vocabulary such as a pod book. And those of you who have been following the series will already know this, but the way that we identified the top 40 words, or the core words to focus on, was we just took the dynamic learning maps first 40. So the dynamic learning maps is an alternate assessment consortium out of the Center for Literacy and Disability Studies at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And they analyzed all those high frequency words that are first words that kids might use to speak and the first words that kids learn to read and to write, the high frequency words that kids use the most in the classroom, and they figured out what were kind of that essential first 40 words that allow kids to be able to communicate the most, especially those kids who, due to the nature of their disabilities and how they're learning to access a communication system, might be very new to using any kind of communication system. So that's the set that we've been using, and we are on the 8th row down. Don't that go and do. And if you've been following the series, you already know what core words there are. They're that small set of words that we use really frequently all across the day in many different contexts with many different people. Kind of the magic of core words is that they're just really easily combined and recombined with many other words. So we can say a great deal even if we only have access to a smaller number of them. And core words is just a speech therapy term that talks about one way to organize a communication system vocabulary. So core words are those very high frequency words like and can and do, and fringe words are those low frequency words that are often the specific things, the specific nouns, for example, that kids might be really excited about. So I and like are high frequency core words, and cookies would be fringe. So take a minute, look in your student system and find these words. Don't, do, that, and go. If you've been using one of the free downloadable symbol displays that we have in our Facebook group, such as Deanna Wagner's core word display, then that display looks like this, and I have circled those keywords that we're focusing on this month. And you'll notice that the symbol for don't shares the space with the symbol for not. And we're going to talk about that as we look at other more high frequency systems. So the most common systems used by our kids tend to be Proloquo to Go, the iPad app, and Pod, the Pragmatically Organized Books, or Pod in the Compass app on the iPad. And we've talked about what a robust vocabulary looks like. This is the standard for Proloquo of a 6x10 vocabulary. We've been really recommending that people try to start with something similar to this in terms of kind of this level of language that's available. And as we look for words like don't, that's where you're going to run into just a little bit of a challenge this month, because don't is the opposite of do, or it's the contraction of do when we add not. And it's not immediately intuitive where you would find it. And this will be the same across many different communication systems. So there's a few different things we can do here. If you're looking to model don't, and I think it's a very powerful word, which we'll talk about why it is, you've got a few different options if you're using Proloquo, and this really will apply if you're using just about any high frequency, any other AAC system, core word AAC system. You can model do and not together because they're both on the home page here. You can also navigate to the actual word don't, which in Proloquo's Crescendo vocabulary, it's actually down in the little words folder. So you see that red arrow, and if we touch that button, all these little words pop up, and then you can see that we have the word don't right there in front of you. So that's another option. This is really an issue of personal preference, I think, in terms of what you want to do here. You can replace one of the buttons that's on the home page with the word don't. If you want to make it just a single symbol that the student has to activate in order to be able to say the word don't, you can model the two-word combination of do and not, or you can model the navigation to find the word don't. And I think it completely depends. You could, because if you put don't on the homepage, you're going to have to give up another symbol. And there's a few reasons why you might do that, right? You might have a student for whom don't is a really important word. Similarly, my daughter Maggie, her first word was stop. Very, very important word for her, because just like don't, it's just a very powerful, very assertive word that gave her a lot of control over her environment, because people responded to her very differently if she shoved them away versus if she used the symbol stop. And don't can be similar to that, and so you might want to make it really easy to find. On the other hand, when we can add the word not to a word, so we can add, do not, have not, and we can add it to all of our other verbs anyway. We've already got a way to say it. So totally up to you how you want to do it. If you do put don't on your home page, it's a powerful word, and it's really easily combined with don't want, don't like, don't need, don't take, so it has just really high utility. Mary-Louise, do you have any opinion about whether you should give up a word if you don't have really easy access to don't, if you should give up a word on your homepage in order to get it?
If you're limited for space and you really don't know what other things to give up, what we've done in the past is just amplify the power of not, so you're using that
Right.
to negate it, or make a pop-up from not, which can add don't, but as long as you've got a way to negate something, so if someone says come, you can say not come, or you can model go, or if someone says, you know, if a child's saying go shops, you can say not shops, school. As long as you've got a way to negate it, I think that's the most important thing.
Cool.
Or for the child to negate you.
Right. And I think we find that if whatever it is that important to the child, then they really will figure out that two-button messaging in order to be able to negate it. Maggie just did it to me the other day. So, you know, she's very emergent in her AAC use. She doesn't use it a lot expressively, but when she does, she really means it, and she will navigate to find the words. So we don't currently have don't on her homepage. And that's really what both don't and not do. By having that ability to negate, we double really the access to our verbs. We double the messages that we can form using our core words. So like Mary-Louise was saying, it's just a really powerful thing. So as long as we have some way to negate, we're good. All right, so when we are targeting core words, you guys know this if you've been following the series, we're really strengthening our concept knowledge, our students' concept knowledge of what different words mean and what kind of utility they have across the day, what use they have with all the different activities that we can use them in. We are ourselves learning how to really automatically access those words when we're modeling. So we're by targeting a few words, we're just trying to teach ourselves the motor memory, teach ourselves our child's system well enough that we can easily model, and we don't have to put a lot of thought into how to slowly hunt and peck our way through their communication systems. And we're just trying to increase the frequency of how often we model our words so that our student will be able to learn how to just observe us and see how they can use and combine and recombine the words in different ways across the day. So what's the most important to know about the set 8 of Core 4 is just what strong vocabulary it is for having power to direct other people and to influence your environment. And if you've got a kid like mine, this is the kind of language that's some of the very first words that Maggie learned how to access and that she started to use, because it was just extremely important to her to have some power over her environment. And when we've got kids who maybe are easily overwhelmed in terms of their sensory systems, who are very sensitive to being manhandled or just very sensitive to all of that stuff, giving them language to be able to have some control over their bodies and how other people interact with them is an extremely important way to help them self-regulate and help them have power. I've combined don't and do in terms of our first two words because obviously they are so closely related. So do is a verb meaning to perform, to achieve. It's a verb that we often use before verbs, or is a word that we often use before verbs, such as do you have a cat or don't you like chocolate, that kind of thing. So it's a very important word in questions. And it's got lots of kind of snarkiness value and slang value, such as we're going to a fancy do this weekend, or she has a new do to refer to a hairstyle, that kind of thing. So definitely high frequency word like all of these core words have been that we focused on. Don't and do automatically demand performance from someone else. They're instructing someone else to do something. And I'm emphasizing this because we made a really big mistake the first year that we were modeling language for Maggie, because we were trying so hard to make sure that whenever we talked to her that we modeled, we were accidentally using her communication system as the tool by which we bossed her around. So go do this, go do that, don't do this, do that. And somehow from all of that, she did not conclude that her communication system could be her voice. Instead, it was almost like another voice of ours instructing her what to do, because I hadn't been doing good reflective modeling. I hadn't really thought about that enough, and to realize that I needed to be modeling these words to reflect back what she was saying with her body at least as often as I was using it to tell her what to do. So just be wary of that. Many of you may have already learned that lesson, not be making the same mistake I did, but if this is an issue, just be really aware of that and try to use words like don't and do at least as often to reflect what the student is telling you to do as you use them to tell them what to do. So do and don't are really easily used in questions. They're very important words for asking questions. So if we want to ask someone, do you have a cat? Do you live here? Who do you like? Who do you live with? That kind of thing. Do you want that? Yes, I do. What do you need? Well, I need you to do this. Do you need me to help? Yes, I do, right? So it's just very important question words. And when we actually try to observe ourselves throughout the day, you'll see that we use them a lot. Where do really shows some authority is, I'm just giving you two examples of something that Maggie said early on with her communication system. So whenever there's a long break from school, she would much rather be at school than be home for too long. She's always made that quite clear to us. And so one time she just said, I want school. And another time she said, schoolwork, it's in the future, do that. And it was just really striking to me to realize what a much stronger phrase it is, what a much stronger message. There was something about the imperative. Go do that. Schoolwork, it's in the future, do that. She was predicting that school break was about to end, or I think maybe she was actually asking, when is this school break going to end? When can I please go back to school? And she put so much powerful emphasis on what she was trying to say, what her dissatisfaction was with the break by saying do that. I had not been modeling do that. That was something they'd been doing at school. And she was quite excited by kind of that power to have that imperative with people. Words like don't are about power. Don't is about safety. We've talked a lot in this series about making sure that when we introduce AAC to our students, it's very important that we're not trying to teach them compliance with how they use it. When you have words like don't, you have some power over your body, you have some power over your environment, you are simply less vulnerable to other people because you have a voice to protect yourself. So really be aware of that. And when our kids are using behavior that is telling us don't, then that's when we can show them the power of their words to say the same thing. So some of the reflective modeling we can do is, you're crying, we're trying to leave, and you're telling me, no, don't go, or I don't want to go. You're covering your ears because your brother's yelling, and you're saying, don't yell. You're laughing and rocking while we're swinging. You're saying, don't stop. You're telling me to keep doing this. Or you're pushing my hands away. You're telling me, don't do that. So when we do this kind of modeling, we're telling our kids that we understand what they're telling us with their bodies, and that there's a way that they can access words to be more specific and more clear. Mary-Louise, do you want to add anything
No,
to that? Because this is something I learned from you.
No, I think, you've talked so much in this series about making sure that the AAC is power for the child, not just another way for adults to boss the child around. And I think this negating language is a really, really important part of that.
Cool. And, it's funny, in Maggie's classroom, I think where we started modeling it the most was they'd gotten into a habit of using a lot of hand over hand. And when we started working around how important it was not to do hand over hand with Maggie, she really does not appreciate it on any level, and she was constantly trying to pull her hands away to model back, oh, you're telling me don't do that, and really show her that she can have that control over her body. I just think it was essential. Something else that I think is really important is I think it's very common for our kids to grow up in an environment that's constantly telling them what not to do. And you'll just hear constant, don't do that, don't hit, don't bite, don't spit, don't grab, don't touch. And that when we are being really aware of what we're modeling and we're really focusing on these core words, one of the things that we can really remind ourselves is let's model to our child what it is we want them to do. Let's make sure that they're getting constant messages about what we know they can do with their bodies, the self-control, the self-regulation that we know they're capable of, but also just what our explanations are, our expectations are. So instead of saying things like don't hit, where they might actually just be hearing the word hit, we're going to tell them do control your hands. Instead of things like don't touch, we're going to tell them things like gentle hands or do touch with gentle hands, that kind of thing. And I think that when we focus on these words, it just helps remind us how important it is that we tell our kids what to do at least as often as we tell them what not to do. The third word is pretty simple and boring. That is very high frequency, just refers to a person or thing that you can see or that we have somehow referred to. So generally we would use the word that when we kind of already have established, maybe I'm looking at something or pointing towards something, or we've just talked about something, we refer to, you know, that's my cat, no, I want that one, or oh, that's a good idea, right? It's something that has just been sort of in front of us, just been discussed. It has a bit of snarkiness factor for it too, because we can say things like, well, I wouldn't say that, or I wouldn't go that far. But it can help our kids, by modeling words like that, it can really help our kids start to be more specific and to realize again that they can use language versus just their bodies to tell us some of the things that we're thinking about. So we can model words like that with this, which is a word that we introduced earlier in this series. So do you want this book or that book? Or should we compare this book to that book? Should we compare this idea to that idea? We can use it in choice making, and we can just really emphasize it with things like how often our kids might be reaching, and we can say, I think you're asking for that, or handing us objects. And when we model back to them what they're asking, just to help them start realizing all the different parts of speech that allow them to be specific in what their messages are. And the last word for this month is go. Very simple verb that just means to move from one place to another or to leave. If you know many people with Angelman, then you're probably very familiar with go, go, go. Very busy people oftentimes. We use this as a word all throughout the day. It's time to go, let's go, no, don't go. I'm hanging out this week in England with a bunch of Australians and British people, and they're just constantly referring to let's have a go at that. And we use it in slang with things like, all right, all systems go. So just a really fun, playful word. This was one of the first words that we really had an easy time modeling, because once I started paying attention to how often we say go, I had no idea that I use this word so often, but really my children get up and I'm like, okay, it's time to wake up and go get dressed, go brush your teeth, go eat breakfast, it's time to go, get your backpack, go get in the car. Once you get to school, you need to go to your class, you need to go sit down, we go out to recess, then we go to lunch, we go line up so that we can go do those things. We get back to our class and we need to go get our art supplies, we need to get ready to go home at the end of the day, then we might go to an activity, then we go back home, then we need to go wash our hands and go sit down and go take our bath and go get changed into pajamas, and then it all starts all over again the next day. So I think one of the hardest things about the word go is that we're usually on the go when we're using it. It's that kind of short, spontaneous messages that we're saying where we're often not sitting down with our child when we say it. We had a webinar earlier in the series about engineering the environment, and one way to help you with this word is to make sure you're wearing your child's communication device so that you've got those words with you, so that when you're on the go, those words are actually right there on your body. And consider using light tech backups, such as taking screenshots of your child's system, or having pages Mary-Louise can talk more about that, about how the different other ways that you'd support your pod book if you want to have any certain symbol displays throughout your house that just kind of give you quick access to Go. Like I didn't really start modeling Go well until I had a screenshot of Maggie's homepage on the front door. Because it just seemed like so often when we were using it, we were heading out the door and my hands were full, and it just really helped to have it kind of as a portable word that was easy to access. And our kids so often are using their bodies to tell us that they want to go do something. You brought me my purse, you want to go. Oh, you're crying, you're sad because we have to go. Oh, you brought him his keys, you want him to go. You're taking me upstairs, you're ready to go to bed. You're signing McDonald's, you want to go there, right? So they're using their bodies to tell us this. Sometimes they're getting up from their desk and walking out of the classroom, and that's how they're telling us that they want to go. And again, if we can show them that they can access language in order to be more specific when they communicate these messages, they are far more likely to have that message be respected and listened to and have people actually follow through on what it is that they want to happen rather than just being redirected to whatever was happening at the time. So Mary-Louise, why don't you take it from there?
Okay.
Anything else?
I've had to change some things, so if you change to my slides, please, my dear. Can you change to my screen?
Yep.
Show my screen.
Right now.
Okay. Oops. Oh, hang on. Why have I got this bloke? Okay, I'll get rid of that. Okay, so can you see mine?
Yes.
Fabo. Okay, so we're going to concentrate today for our pod families on go and do and don't. And in the pod, because we're starting off with our pragmatic intent of the word, we're going to use the word, we're going to show how we can use the let's go branch starter to use the word go, and also how we can use the do something branch starter to say go and do. So first we'll have a look at using the let's go branch starter to request an action or an event of going somewhere or using the word go. So for our light tech pod families who are using one-page opening books, again we're always starting on page 1A, and there was a question that came up recently saying because we're talking about just doing one branch starter at a time to break the elephant down into tiny bites, can you print out the first 2 pages and then add in a branch starter and then add in and build up the book as you go? And I just wanted to clarify that when we talk about doing one branch starter at a time, you start with the whole book. You must always, when you implement the pod book, you print out the whole book, you cut it, and you carry that whole book around. And then for the first 2 weeks, you might choose one branch starter. But you always have to have that whole book because you never know when you might want to say something deeper in the book. But also if the child touches something such as do something and you don't have those do something pages in there, you can't go and follow their lead and find out what they're going to say. So even though we're breaking it down and saying let's start with the word go and you're going to use let's go branch starter, you always start with the whole book. So sorry Erin, I just needed to clarify that.
Oh, awesome.
Okay, so we've got more to say because it's not on the front page, it's not one of our chat words, our quick chat, so we're going to go more to say, let's go, as we're giving the pragmatic intent of I want to go somewhere, and there's our word go. And remember, with a light tech pod book, you've got a smart partner who can ascertain whether the child or the pod user is saying go or went, present tense, future tense, past tense. You've also got not, don't, can't up the top. So as we've spoken in other pod webinars, the smart partner is helping the child work out if they're saying not go, don't go, can't go, but we're going to be modelling at the moment don't go. And it's really important that we have that negation there. So if the child says, go home, go home, go home, we can say, look, I can see that you really want to go home, but at the moment it's not time to go home. It's time to go to school, or we're staying at school. I know that you don't want to be at school, but it's not time to go home. So it's really important that we have that not, don't, can't there. So if you've got a 2-page opening pod book, again on this is a 40 per page pod, 2-page opening. The 40 per page doesn't have a side panel. It's got, so this is 1A, so this is the left-hand side is the inside of your front cover, and then 1A is your first right-hand page. You can see down the bottom of the 40 per page has the branch starter of Let's Go with the link to turn to page 9. So on page 9A, that's our places category, we're going to find the word go. We're also going to find the word not, don't, the cell for not, don't, can't, so that we can negate that. So we can use that Let's Go branch starter in our light tech 1 per page, light tech 2 per page, and also in our high tech. So again, there's our Let's Go. It's green again. Right there, so this is the pod 15, so a lot of our families with early AAC users use the pod 15 rather than the 15 plus, and they're having a lot of success with that. So let's show the 15 first. We've got Let's Go, and there's our word go. We've got the word not as well, and I'll show you where don't is in a moment. So here's our 15 plus. So in the 15, we simply had the not and the go and then our places words. In the 15 plus, we have Let's Go, and now we have a pop-up with people pronouns. I'm looking on the first column in the left-hand side. We have a pop-up for pronouns. We have a pop-up for places actions, and that's where we are going to find go. We're also going to find our pop-up for our negations. So we go not, and it's got a plus to tell us that there's more inside there, and there we go, there's our don't. So in our pod 15 plus, when you say let's go and it magically turns to your places page, that's where you're going to find your go and your don't. Go. And there's your don't. So now let's look at using the words go and do, using the do something branch starter. So whereas for the let's go branch starter, we might be saying, like Erin was saying, you know, you're walking out the door, let's go to the shops. Oh, let's go to school. Let's go in the car to the park. Let's go in the stroller to the park. Go stroller park. For our directing and bossing people around when we're doing things like playing cars, playing YouTube, when we're not actually going somewhere, we're going to use the do something branch starter to request the action of go or do, or direct the action of go or do. So it's really important that families are modelling go and do in this do something branch starter as well as let's go. So there we go, we're back, we've done more to say. Here's our page 2, there's our do something. And there we go. Okay, this is a 16 per page light tech pod book, 1 page opening. So more to say, do something, and here I go, I'm on actions. So I've got my not, don't, can't cell in the top, first column, third one down, I've got do, did, does. And again, it's the smart partner that is supporting the child then we're modelling the correct tense, and then depending on what the child has said or what the situation is, we can feed back the correct tense. We've also got go, went, goes. So if you're playing cars, you can say, oh, go, do something, go. More to say, do something, go, let's go, car. Ooh, I know, more to say, do something, I might do it. Oh, you're pushing it away. You'll say, don't do that. It's my turn, me do it. So this is a really important place to use those 3 words, don't, do, and go in the do something branch starter. A lot of our little families are using the 12 per page. And again, you've still got those 3 words right there, more to say, do something, and there you go, you're on your actions. If you've got a 2-page opening book, Here's the 40 per page again. So this is when we open the pod to the first page. There we go. We've got not, don't, can't. So that's our don't cell. We've got do. And turn the page on 1B. We've got not, we've got don't, we've got do, we've got go. We've also got a link to actions. And on our actions page, you will find those 3 words again. So wherever you are in the book, you will be able to access through actions page those words again. So if we look on the pod 15, there's our do something branch starter again. We've got go, 3rd column over. We've got do, 1st column down the bottom. And then we've got our not with a little plus pop-up folder, so that our don't is going to be hiding in there. So if we want to say don't, then it's do something, not don't. And that's going to send don't into the message window, and we can activate the message window to say don't. So again, we've got the 15, everything's there. Your don't is accessible, your do is accessible, and your go is accessible. So you can use this playing cards. You can use this mucking around in the house, playing silly billies. Oh, you want the cat to go. Oh, do something. Go away, cat. Off you go. Don't do that to me. We've got the pod 15 plus for some families. So again, you're using do something. And here we go. We've got, because the pod 15 plus has a lot more verbs, things are in folders and pop-ups. So you've got a pop-up for not and don't. You've got a pop-up for want and do, and a folder pop-up for go. So let's have a look first at the go. There's your go word. So do something, go, and there's my go. Pod 15 plus on Toby Dynavox Compass, we've got not, so do something, not, and there's our don't in another pop-up. Pod 15 plus, do something, I want to find the word do, so I go to my want do folder, and there's my word do, 1st column, 2nd one down. On the pod 60 that some of our families are using, on the front page you've got the word do, so 3rd column, 3rd one down, you've got the word do. For go, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns across at the top, and it's a folder, so you know it's going to have a pop-up. So I activate that and I go to a pop-up, and there's my word go. For my word don't, 4th column across at the top, it's a folder, I'm going to touch that, and there's my word don't. Remembering in pod books that keywords like not, don't, can't, go, do are going to appear as predictably associated vocabulary across different pages. So here's, you will see in the transport page, so I'm telling you something, it's about now, categories, transport. Here I am on my transport page. There's my word don't go in the car because we're going on the bus today. So there's my predictably associated vocabulary for my transport page. And here we are on the pod 15. Again, we've got our word there. So we can talk about going in the car, not going in the car. I go on the bus today. Again, go back to categories. Why are we going on the bus? Because we're going to category special events. So again, we've got more predictably associated vocabulary. It's predictably associated that we're going to need the word go if we're talking about parties, if we're talking about fireworks, if we're talking about Halloween. So we're going to find the word go in there. We're always going to find the words not, don't, and can't as well. So we can say, nope, sorry, don't go in that house. We're not going in that house. They don't have their pumpkins out. We are going in the next house. You go and I will follow. Again, we've got in this special events page of Toby Dynavox Compass, we've got the predictably associated word go, and remembering in the 15 plus, everything's our pronouns and verbs on the categories pages are in folders. So in special actions, you will find do, you will find your not folder, and you will find go, as well as other predictably associated verbs for special events. So when we're looking at a 2-page opening pod book and we're looking for that predictably associated vocabulary of do, don't, and go, here's an example of the people page in a 40 per page, and you can see we've got the don't, we've got the go. So you can say, don't go there, we're going to see mum. Oh, who are we going to see? Oh, going to dad today. Here's our activities page. So it's predictably associated. We might go and do an activity. We might go somewhere to do an activity. We're going to do an activity. So there's our word do. A child is saying they want to do something, we're saying, sorry, I don't want to do that. Don't go there today because we're doing art in the classroom today. So again, there's our predictably associated vocabulary. And that's me done, Erin. Oh. And here's my, how am I turning it back to you? Hang on, here I am. I'm so sorry. Okay, change presenter. There we go. Okay. Can you see you?
Hi. Can you see me yet?
Something's happening. I'm so sorry, everybody. I'm still learning. Okay.
I thought I accepted to shift the screen.
It does appear that Erin is the presenter, yes.
All right, excellent. Okay. So Carolyn Musselwhite couldn't be on this webinar, but she shared 2 books like she's done in many others where we've talked about core words. She shared 2 Tar Heel Reader books that just make high-frequency use of words like go and do and don't, because reading these books with our kids, we're not trying to read them using their communication systems to read each word, but they give us this natural opportunity to use the word. So you'll see here, she says this is just kind of one of her favorite Tar Heel books, using words like should I stay. Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt, Erin. Kitty, I can't, all I've got is a blank screen. Can you see Erin's slides? I just want to check that the slides can be seen.
Yes, what I see is should I stay or should I go by the Sweet Kids.
Okay. All right. I must be looking at the wrong thing. Sorry, I just wanted to check.
Oh, that's all right. If you look at your GoToWebinar icon at the bottom of your screen, if you click that, then that might bring the screen back, because I've had that happen to me before. So
Okay.
this is Tar Heel Reader is the website that we've talked about in previous webinars. It's a massive online repository of free books that are written by teachers and speech therapists and special educators and students all over the world. And so it's just a really nice place to go to find really kind of early reading level books, emergent level to early conventional level books for our students. And here's one that it's free to anyone who wants to download it, read it, you can edit it, you can change it up. So, should I stay or should I go? I like to go to Kroger. I do not like to go to the shoe store. I like to go to the movies. I do not like to go to the Monster House. And for us, my favorite thing about Tar Heel Reader is that as we are reading little books like this, it's so fun to then say, so what about you? Do you like to go to the movies? What movie do you want to go see? And then we can swap out the picture. When we download these books, they just download right as a PowerPoint. We can literally just delete the picture and insert a picture of our own child or student with something that's their preference. So for example, if you don't have the Kroger grocery store chain, you can put whatever other destination you'd rather have on this page that says, I like to go to Kroger. And these kind of little books like this just really give us that chance to use this vocabulary of where do you like to go, where do you not like to go, and create a more personalized book for kids. So I do not like to go to the dentist. I like to go to Disney World. And you can see that would be just a really fun thing to talk about, like, oh, look at this picture. Do you want to go? Personally, I actually can't imagine a place I'd rather not go than to take my children to Disney World. That's just not us. But so that would be the conversation that we would have is, you know, I really do not like the idea of going to Disney or the haunted house. My kids actually love haunted houses, so we would just swap those pictures out. I like to go to McDonald's. I do not like to go to bed. I like to go to Frosty Boy. I do not like to go to Time Away. So these are very simple books that just let us start having that conversation with the vocabulary that we're targeting. And then this little book was written by Carolyn Russell-White and one of her students, where it just happened that they were already emphasizing this vocabulary, so they wrote it together. So this was a shared writing assignment. I believe her student Ev uses eye gaze, so eye gaze technology to select her words, and so they talked about don't go there. Where would you just not go? Ev is I think she's a young teenage girl, so we will see what she had to say. So her book is called Don't Go There. Busy street? Don't go there. My mat, cat? Don't go there. My backpack? Don't go there, right? Stay out of my personal stuff. Homework? Don't go there. Boys? Don't go there. We'll check in with her in another year or two and see if she still says that. The water bucket, don't go there. So you can see the dog is going in the water bucket. So just a silly little book. We will upload both of these as PowerPoints and as PDFs to the Facebook page if you feel like this would be something that your kids might crack up over, or that would just give you that opportunity to talk about different places you might go, what you like to do, where you don't want to go, etc. The upcoming webinars. Next week, we will be looking at emergent reading assessment using the Bridge Observational Rating Scale. It's an absolutely lovely rating scale to help us try to capture the reading behaviors that we see in children with Angelman before they've really learned necessarily what all their letters are, and what sound letters make, and what we think of as those more conventional reading skills. So it's a great tool to help us better understand our students' baselines and kind of what our instructional targets need to be. The week after that, Maureen Nevers, one of our speech therapists on this project, will be talking about communication assessment. And the last week of this month, we'll be looking at early writing activities to do with our students about the curriculum, so about curricular topics. So that is what is coming up. Possible next steps in terms of what we just talked about today. One thing you might do is just try to identify some time during the day or some context you already experienced with your student where they are using non-symbolic communication. They're using their face, facial expressions, they're using their bodies, their hands, some form of non-symbolic communication to tell you that they want you to not do something when they're telling you to don't. And just try to target those times to show them the power of language in those situations, and they might be very different. For Maggie, that time that was sort of most important to model for her was she really resented being removed from her classroom if class was still going. She just did not want to leave her friends. And so modeling a word like don't when she was being asked to leave the classroom and go somewhere else was a far more effective way for her to be heard than her old strategy of laying down on the ground and going stiff as a board. First she'd go really limp and drop, and then she would just stay as stiff as possible in order to stay in the room. And what she discovered was that teachers really respect someone who quietly and calmly says don't, and they don't often know how to respond the way that she wanted them to respond if she only had her body to tell them what that was. So I would just think about some kind of situation like that that you've got with your student where you could start modeling some of this language. And by all means, share your experiences in the Facebook group. We'd love to know if this kind of strategy is helpful or what barriers you're facing so that we can go from there. So we can take questions if you've got questions, or as you start writing your questions, Let me just remind you that the ASF Communication Training Series is made available by the Angelman Syndrome Foundation through a generous grant from the Foster Family Charitable Foundation in California. And then we can see if you have any questions.
Okay, I do see that Jennifer Martin, she put in, it's not really a question, it was a comment, and it was much earlier, so hopefully
Okay.
it says if you go to 8 by 12, don't is on the home page. Buttons are smaller, but you do get a lot of additional vocabulary.
Oh, that's such a good point. So Jennifer Martin is the speech-language pathologist who works for Assistive Wear and designs that crescendo vocabulary that so many of our families are using with Proloquo. So that's just another one of those advantages of going up to a larger vocabulary size, is then you don't have to make that choice between real estate about whether you add the word don't to your homepage. That's a really good point.
Okay, thank you. I'm watching, I don't see any hands raised, and so far there's no other questions. We can give it a second and see if anyone has any questions, to go ahead and type it in the questions, or raise your hand and I'll unmute you.
And you can always post something in the Facebook group as well.
Exactly. Since this is my first time on, I'm not sure how long we wait for questions, Erin.
Usually only about this long.
Okay, well, with that, I just want to thank everyone for being with us today. Please visit the Communication Training Series Facebook group page to post any additional questions or comments. And don't forget to join us next week for the reading assessment. Everybody have a great day.